Hello, I am Zack Kennedy, and this is Around the Arena. So today we are on episode 4, and today we're going to be talking about the baseball team. So the reason the baseball team has been an anticipated podcast episode for me at Westchester is because as a freshman, I was on the baseball team. So I came from Unionville High School, where Nick Ward, Westchester native baseball player who's now in the Philadelphia Phillies organization, he also went to my high school. And just coming to Westchester was all baseball related. I didn't really think about anything but baseball. It was what I was locked into all summer, the summer before and junior year of high school into senior summer, and I was just locked into Westchester as a baseball player, and I had a great experience. And I got to play with some of the guys who are on the team now, so that's also a beneficial thing. So I got to talk to J.R. Gifford. So we're gonna get some words on him and what he has to say about the team this year. But first, we're just going to start out with the roster. I like to open up with the roster, just get everyone's name out there. So we're going to start out with the first guys: Andrew Cantwell, John DiMucci, Joe Sperone, Evan Profi, J.R. Gifford, Joe Kalick, Joe Martino, Dylan Howanitz, Sean Szysłowski, Zach Miles, Luke Cantwell, Ryan Nutley, Joe Messina, Will Conrad, Luke Vax, Sean Slowinski, Evan Snyder, Jeb Kurtz, John Dunian, Eric Nardini, Gabe Rappa, Steven Restuccio, Gaetan Grandelli, Corey Stauffer, David Oliva, Mark Elliott, Nick Noga, Julian Costa, Griffin Strawface, Josh Paulina, Shane Adamski, Ryan DeHaven, Kyle Laser, David Ferguson, Brandon Fink, and John Fitzpatrick. I know that's a very long roster name there, but I just want to at least get everyone's name out there. I'm sure some of you guys have heard of some of these players, may be friends with them, and I just want to give them the support they deserve. So we're going to start out with the coaches. So the head coach is Mike LaRosa. He came, I believe, the year after I was a freshman, which was 2018, 2019. So I believe Mike LaRosa came in 2020. He brought on assistant coaches Jake Carr and Brian Lindros, and pitching coach John Fleming. And the director of player development is Charlie Cooper. So just the words from J.R. Gifford. So one of the things that he said, I just asked him basic questions, just what's this team about this year? What is the chemistry there? How are we feeling about the season? What's the main goal? And all he had to say was, yeah, this team has a ton of chemistry. It's going to be competitive and a fun year. Our main goal is getting to the national championship. So I also just asked him, who are the captains? Who's the main pitchers you guys are looking to take you far into these playoffs, into the tournament, and all that. So the captains are J.R. Gifford, who I spoke to, Joe Messina, Joe Kalick, and Joe Sperone. So those are the 4 captains. The ace pitchers. So the ace being the top guys, Joe Sperone and David Ferguson are the 2 top guys on the pitching staff as of right now. And then the power hitters. These are the guys that are going to hit the long ball. It's J.R. Gifford, it's Luke Cantwell, and it's Joe Kalick. Another guy, Luke Cantwell, who I played with freshman year. Just one of the most talented guys you'll see on a baseball field. And then I asked him, JR, who's the biggest rival? Obviously Millersville. It's always Millersville. I didn't know if there was a new one, maybe Kutztown stuck in there, maybe IUP or so. He said Millersville and then North Greenville, who they saw in the College World Series, the Division II College World Series. North Greenville was the other team they've built a big rivalry with for obvious reasons. Last year being very competitive with them, and then them knocking out Westchester in the tournament, unfortunately. So let's start off with how they're doing this year, this baseball team. So they are 17-6. That's a very hot start. At the current moment, I believe they're ranked 9th in the nation as for Division II baseball, which is unheard of. It just, if you have a program in any of your sports at your school and it's top 10 in the nation, you know that team's talented. You know the guys on that team are trustworthy. The coaches, the program is just built perfectly. Another thing to note is the Westchester's on a 5-game winning streak, and then they come and now they're going to have some home games here to continue that streak. They're looking really upward, and hopefully can make a run at the national championship this year, which would be very interesting. So they have a 3-game set with Salem University. They'll have a doubleheader on this Saturday, and yeah, looking forward to it. And the doubleheader will be on April 1st, so that's the Saturday date. So yeah, just a little bit more about the baseball team and the experience I had. So the schedule might be changed now, but when you're playing a sport, you have to realize in college it can be a full-time job. As much as school's a full-time job, playing a sport, student athletes, they really have to put their best foot forward, and that's why I could only play a year. I really had to put the academics ahead of my sports stream because it's a lot. It is a lot. So the schedule we had as my freshman year was 3 to 6. You had practice. You would have an hour lift on certain days after that practice, and then usually the whole team would go to the dining hall. Everybody would enjoy a meal, go home, do some homework, and then you're back at it the next day. And there's 8 a.m. weekend practices, lifts, and whatnot. It's a full-time job, so I give it out to all these Westchester athletes on all these teams, whether it's gymnastics, swimming, football, basketball, baseball, softball, any of the sports. These players are really putting their best foot forward, and they are not shorting how much they put the effort into their schooling and their practice. One note is that I've seen all these student athletes firsthand, being in the program, being around the soccer team, being around the lacrosse team, and etc. These players are putting their best foot forward on the field and also in school. They're always in study halls. They're always going over each other's houses, studying together. They really do put their best foot forward, and it's a great thing to see. So the leaders of this team obviously are captains J.R. Gifford, Joe Messina, Joe Calick, and Joe Sperone. J.R. is a catcher. So when I got recruited to Westchester, I was also a catcher. Me and J.R. became very close friends very quickly, and he's now obviously continued with the baseball program, and he's been outstanding for Westchester, to say the least. He's got a ton of power. He's got a cannon for an arm. He's a stud athlete, and there's just no denying that. So, and like I said, this roster is so big. I wish I could go into more pitchers. Andrew Cantwell, he's a junior. He was a sophomore last year. He pitched phenomenally in the College World Series. Luke Cantwell, buddy of mine, who's now a 5th year on the team, redshirt senior. He's from Marple, Newtown. I actually got to play Luke in high school before I went to Westchester, and then got to become close friends with him as well. And he's an absolute freak of nature, 6'2", 230 pounds, can hit the ball to all fields. He's got a cannon for an arm, power, contact, you name it, he's got it. Runs down a fly ball with the best of them. He's a stud athlete. He really is. Joe Messina, right-handed pitcher. A stud. He's a senior. Came from Newman Goretti. He's a player to look out for. He's going to be a guy when the going gets tough and the Division II College World Series comes. He's going to be one of those guys this team is leaning on majorly. And then Evan Schneider, graduate student, came back because of a COVID year, and he's from Ruston High School, Westchester Ruston, very local, right down the street from the university. And he's a lefty. He has some of the craziest left-handed tail I have seen on his fastball. He's got a great curveball. I got to catch him, obviously, on some travel teams at Westchester. I've also got to face him, and let me just say, it's not fun facing him when you're at the plate. He's got a lot of tail to that outside. When you're a right-handed hitter and that ball's tailing away from you, it's very difficult to handle. So just some of the freshmen to look out for. Julian Costa, he's a redshirt freshman. Griffin Straffus, he's also a freshman, came from Spring Ford. Right-handed pitcher Josh Polina, he's also a freshman. Ryan DeHaven, also a freshman. Brandon Fink. John Fitzpatrick's a redshirt freshman. He's from Ridley area. So a lot of local guys. You'll see some people from, the New Jerseys, maybe some New York. But other than that, Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, that's really where the main grab is for these Westchester programs. And as you see, it's got top 10 potential. There's a lot of talent in this eastern region. This northeastern region is filled with talent: baseball, football, basketball, every sport you could name at Westchester. And it's been working out for this Westchester athletics because the programs are all built to perfection, and they continue to provide wins and provide a good media for the school. So we're going to talk about now what our next goal is for the podcast. So we just talked about the baseball team. Obviously, I could go on further about the baseball team. They are mid-season, 17-6, 5-game winning streak. They're now got a 3-game set at home, hopefully to make that a 20-6 record. This team's looking upward, and they're going to have a lot of fun this year, and that's a team you got to look out for. So as for the baseball team, really appreciate everything they've done for me, the program, the coaches that brought me here, gave me that experience. Although it was only 1 year, it gave me an experience of a lifetime. Got to meet some really cool people, play some ball, obviously, and the rest is history with that. So now, as for the next episode, we are going to focus on the softball team. So the reason I wanted to separate the softball team and baseball team is because I didn't want to squeeze in, I have a lot to say about the baseball team. I didn't want to squeeze in the softball team. I want to give softball their full own podcast episode from around the arena. I want to go over rosters, coaches. I also want to dig into the coaches they brought in and the veteran coaches that are there and how they've structured that success on that program. And we'll see what they can do this year. So softball is the next goal. Based on timing of episodes, we will get into gymnastics. I also want to get into men's and women's rugby. I think that's an interesting sport that it doesn't get a lot of publicity around Westchester. I've had some friends, girl and guys, that were on the rugby teams. They had experiences of a lifetime. They love rugby. There is somewhat of there's a relationship on being with the rugby team. I've seen it in my high school and I've seen it at Westchester. Something about the rugby team. There's a real bond there. Probably similar to like a football team bond. How there's just a lot of guys working together, a lot of girls working together and putting together results. That bond is there. Baseball, great bond. All these sports, they great team, family bonds. And if you see these connections between these players, whether they're from New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, New York, Maryland, wherever they may come from, everyone seems to have that same vibe to them. That same drive to become a better athlete, to put focus on school and sports and nothing else. And that's why these programs are so successful. And the recruiting at Westchester is some of the best around that you will see. And that's very clear. Just seeing when you recruit players, we obviously have the Westchester town. There's the town area. There's places to eat, go out with friends, and all that. That's part of the recruiting process. That's how recruiting works for baseball, football, every sport at Westchester. So they do that, and then they go to the buildings. They go to the dining hall, the new buildings they've built, the classrooms, all part of the recruiting process. And then sometimes last resort is showing them the locker room, showing them where they're going to be getting set up, where they're going to be lifting, where they're going to be playing baseball, softball, tennis, etc. And that's all goes into the recruiting process. And obviously, Westchester does an excellent job at recruiting. We've got an amazing campus, as you all know. It's beautiful. Teachers are great. Coaches, program, the entire athletics program is just phenomenal. And that's why it's so fun to watch these teams succeed at Westchester, put a good name on the Golden Rams, and just show out for us. So, yeah, the next episode is going to be the softball team. We're going to go over rosters, head coaches, their schedule, their current successes, their past successes, and we'll really fill you in on this team as a whole. Some people are not going to know the rosters, and then they're going to hear a name and they're like, oh, I know that girl. I've been friends with her, or et cetera. You're in a class with somebody, and then now you build a relationship, and now you want to go see the softball team. Now you want to. That's the interesting part of it all. So I look forward to speaking on the softball team. This was